Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts. And today I've got a wonderful man. He's somebody I've recently met who is very aligned with what I do. So I think the audience are going to really love this guy. His name is Tarun Gulati. He's the founder of an organization called ADIOS. So welcome, Tarun.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Lyn.
Now, you're the founder of ADIOS, which is all around mental health and well-being, Tarun. And today we're going to be talking about how to train your inner counsellor. So first of all, would you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you've come to be doing what you're doing?
Sure. So this contemplation project really came about from what was happening in my own personal life for many, many years. I was given to be lost in deep thought fairly early in my life. It came to me naturally. No one in my family was like that, or not in my friend circle or in my extended family. So it was just something natural that I found myself thinking a lot. And that intensified over the past 15 years, where I was essentially examining my own mind and my own actions and what impact did those actions have on my peace of mind. And as that was happening in my personal life for many years, a couple of years ago, when I was thinking about what should I do professionally, because one chapter was closing and the question was, okay, what next? Then I remembered that I had done a contemplation workshop in 2015 with about 40 people. This was just one session, like an experimental workshop.
Yeah.
And the results were better than expected out of that one session. And then I forgot all about it after 2015. We did not do any other workshop because I got into other things. So in 2020, when I was thinking, what should I do next? That workshop came to my mind. And then I thought about it, and I basically realized that if this is something, the habit of contemplation, if this has helped me personally so much that I consider myself to be the luckiest person alive today.
Sorry, Tarun, carry on.
Yeah, so that's when I thought that, okay, if that one workshop had a reasonable impact, that was clearly not sufficient. So let me create a proper system where whatever has benefited me, can I train other people to do that? And that's how ADIOS actually came about as a mental well-being startup. It was never a startup to begin with. So it did not happen because of COVID. It did not happen because everyone was talking about mental health. It happened because it was happening to me for 15 years. That's the journey.
Excellent. So I believe that ADIOS is an acronym that stands for something. So can you tell the listeners what it stands for?
It is, yes. So ADIOS stands for a dialogue in objective silence, because that is what it is. It is a dialogue that you have with yourself objectively in silence.
And when you talk about contemplation, what's your definition of contemplation?
So contemplation is essentially deep thinking deeply about matters that matter. It is not meditation the way we understand today. It is simply disconnect from the external, sit on a chair, raise your head by 30 degrees, stare into blankness and think, or go for a contemplation walk. It's simply thinking deeply, nothing more, nothing less. Why is it important? Because we don't do that anymore.
There's
It's
so
just
much
thinking.
distraction, isn't there, around into this modern world, and there's so much stuff that gets in our head that is meaningless and not necessarily for our highest good, that distracts us from these really high level, like you say, modes of being where we can really, really tap into our inner selves and find profound, really great pieces of wisdom, can't we?
Yeah. So what has happened is the noise was always there, but it has increased astronomically over the past 10 to 15 years because of whatever has been happening around us. So what that tends to do is, if you live your life largely looking outward and not looking inward, you don't create a deep connection with yourself. And if you don't have that connection with yourself, then you don't have internal clarity because you're not looking inward. And if you don't have internal clarity, you still need to make decisions every day. You make choices every day, at home, at work. But then you tend to make choices that seem exciting in the short run, but are actually not right for you in the long run. Because then you're making choices looking outward. And then those wrong choices then lead to stress or anxiety. So when you say that my life is not going anywhere, or I feel something is missing, or this is not right, it's basically dissatisfaction with the choices that you're making. It's not as hard as it sounds. Once you look within, 50% of your problems evaporate. And then if you use certain principles which guide you to make the right choices, then you change your choices, because you can see that this is what I said to my colleague that is making me more restless. But until today, you had not seen it. Why? Because you're too busy looking outside. You're not examining. So that's what contemplation does. When you think about these things, you observe what you're saying, then you start making changes in the choices that you make on a daily basis.
I think it's all about taking that personal responsibility and accountability for what you've currently got or haven't got in your life.
Yeah, that's true. And also, especially in the technological age that we live today, you mentioned the distractions. They are only going to increase now. But blaming a technology company is not the solution, because they are not responsible for your well-being. You are. So only I can decide what I say, what I don't say, how I react, how I don't react. So yes, it is our responsibility. And now with this contemplation practice, it is not so hard to understand what should I do to make changes.
So what is the starting point, Tarun? When you're first introducing this as a topic, in a workshop or on a one-to-one basis or in a discussion, what is the first, of those principles you spoke about, or how you start that conversation with somebody so they really understand what the steps are?
Sure. So there are two things you need to make the right choices. Let's just walk through the sequence of this. One, the quality of your life is determined by how you feel. If you feel good, the quality of your life is good. If you feel not so good, you could say the quality is not so good. So if you want to feel fulfilled, purposeful, and peaceful, then you need to make those choices. And to make the right choices, you need two things. One, a deep connection with yourself, which is what contemplation gives you. And the second is some principles, guiding principles, that will help you make the right choices. So when we start, these principles are very practical in nature. For example, we start with the principle of the twin voices, where we are basically saying, can you identify and differentiate between two voices inside your head. Because sometimes when you're doing something or you're deciding something, you might hear two voices or more than two voices. Voice one may say, do this. Voice two may say, no, do that. And maybe there is a voice three that says, no, do something completely different.
Yes.
So we start there. You could call it the voice of the head, the voice of the heart, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's essentially the voices and you can hear them. So you start with, can I hear those voices? Step one. Step two, can I write them down? Voice one says this, voice two says this. And then slowly you start applying other principles. Like the cardinal principle of ADIOS is what makes you more peaceful and what makes you more restless. So if you were to apply this to the twin voices, then you're basically asking, okay, I have written the voices down. Now, the next step is I go voice by voice and say, if I were to do what voice one is asking me to do, will that make me more peaceful or will that make me more restless in the long term? You do the same thing with voice two, you do the same thing with voice three. So that's the first step. And then there are other principles that come in. For example, another principle is the urge to prove. So there we are saying, in your interactions with your family members, with your friends, with your colleagues at work, on a Zoom call, in a meeting, do you experience an urge to prove that I'm right and someone else is wrong? Do you experience an urge to put someone else down? If yes, identify it. And then again, step two is always the same. Ask yourself, did that make me more peaceful or less peaceful? Because the whole philosophy of ADIOS is you talk to yourself and understand whether that thing is making you more peaceful or is it making you more restless, not the other person. So if I misbehave with you, Lyn, in a meeting, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sarcastic. What we are saying is take Lyn out of the equation. You sit and ask yourself, when you pass that sarcastic comment on Lyn, yes, of course, you had a bout of pleasure, perhaps, but after that, does it really make you more peaceful in the long run? Or does it make you more restless or less peaceful? So these are the kind of principles we use. And then there are principles about negatively comparing yourself with others. There are principles about speech, speaking less, not using negativity, which is anger, sarcasm. But again, these are not instructive. With every principle, you ask the same question. Does it make me more peaceful? Does it make me less peaceful?
So interesting and very, very deep, isn't it? And it's really, I suppose, getting rid of the mind chatter and actually becoming more and more aware of your own thoughts and thinking and focusing those thoughts and thinking around your own health and well-being to a point where you don't really need to think too much about it because it becomes more natural to you.
That's where you eventually get to. And the good part of it is not really hard. It is easy. Once you know the method, it's easy for you to understand that this is what I said. And then if the filter is very clear, then you may not change right away because you might have older patterns develop, muscle memory. But you start to see it. And eventually, after once, twice, thrice, you will realize it before you are sarcastic with Lyn again. It will come to you before and you will not do it. And I speak from experience of the people who have taken this program for the last 2 years. And sometimes that clarity actually doesn't come instantly. Sometimes the muddiness increases for a few days. But I'll tell you why. That's because for some people, they had let that noise settle down at the bottom of the glass. So the water looked clear, but it wasn't because all the dirt was settled at the bottom. When you start looking, you're essentially stirring the glass, the water. So that noise is going to bubble up, but that's temporary. Then when you keep using contemplation and the principles, your goal is to take each noise particle, each dust particle, and resolve it. So it never appears again. And that's when real clarity is experienced.
Fascinating stuff. So is this something that stems solely from yourself and your own journey towards, I suppose, living a more better, healthier, thinking life for yourself?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah. Is this solely stemmed from what you've learnt yourself, or has this been based on other studies of other influences that have influenced you?
Yeah, so this comes solely from long hours of staring into blankness that I have done for many years and analyzed it myself, because I was guilty of all these things. When I was younger, you do give in to anger, you do give in to sarcasm. These are natural behavioral traits of a normal human being. But when I started analyzing them and started looking at the impact they had on my peace of mind, I didn't like it. So I started to change. And from that point onwards, because I was also doing my other work as a professional, I was meeting tens of people. So I used those meetings to observe them and what they do and what they say. And then very quickly, it all came together that these things are very normal. Many people repeat the same things. So that then turned into these principles. So these principles are actually coming out of these musings. They are not a combination of something taken from psychology or neuroscience or yoga or meditation. I wrote these on my own, and I wanted them to be very tactical and practical, something that you can use instantly during your day in your interaction with any other people. So they come from my personal experience, yes.
Wow, excellent. So these words of wisdom and this whole, these whole programs that you're designing have literally come from your own deep thinking and contemplations on your own personal journey.
That's right, yeah.
Excellent. And when you started thinking deeply and connecting more with yourself and becoming more aware of your own thoughts, and sharing that with people, how did you see the before and after transformation of those people that have followed your principles?
So the results have been fairly encouraging. We have done this, people have taken it and used it for their profession. People have taken it and used it for their personal lives. So we have had team leaders who have used this to become calmer with their teammates. We have had people who said that earlier when I used to sit in meetings, I was ready to attack. But because I have been watching what that attacking is doing to my peace of mind, I now listen and I feel more mature. Those were the exact words that this lady used. And she works for a company in Silicon Valley. And from then on, you see, once you see something like this, it is very hard to unsee it. That's the beauty of it. So every time that behavior comes back to you, you may give in because maybe you are lacking in your practice, but you notice and you remember to change it the next time. So the journey is not a straight, smooth curve up, which is almost never the case, whether it is playing the piano or learning how to be more clear and peaceful. with contemplation. It's a skill, just like playing the piano or riding a bicycle. But there are slight ups and downs because you're a human, so you will forget. Sometimes the emotions will get the better of you. Sometimes the negative voice that should not be dominating will dominate. But the beauty is you are aware
Yes.
that it dominated me in my last conversation when I was talking to my sister. I don't want to do that again. So then what you do is, next time when you meet her, you're more careful. So people have used it in their personal lives, in their professional lives. There's one particular founder of a startup who used it to start going for her own contemplation retreats alone. So this is somebody who believed that not working for 5 minutes is a crime.
Wow.
Yeah, so from there, she actually went to taking some time off once in a while, going away alone for a contemplation retreat where she could think through her business strategies, and she's used it in multiple situations. In fact, she's going to be on my podcast in the next few weeks where she will detail her experiences. So multiple ways people have used it in their relationships. And in some cases, they have used it to exit a toxic relationship.
Which is, the right thing to do, isn't it? I mean, because we stay in unhealthy or, I suppose, what you refer to as toxic relationships far too long normally, don't we? And we don't deserve that. We're not doing ourselves any favors within our relationship dynamic or, in terms of our long-term mental health.
Yeah, very true. And when you practice contemplation and when you get that clarity, you also realize that there is not much you can do with respect to changing the other person. Most of the time, it's really not possible. Very rarely can you change the other person. But you can then start deciding, what can I change in myself? Which means if there was something wrong in you, like for example, if you were being too sarcastic, too angry, too critical, then you realize that and say, okay, all these reactions are happening because I am being unpleasant. So you change that. But then if you have searched through your internal self and found that, no, I'm not being so unpleasant really, then maybe the only solution is, maybe this is not the right place to be. So that decision, you see, can only be yours.
Yeah.
Someone else cannot decide for you because you feel. Only you know the architecture of your life. So only you know what choice is the right one for you, which is what contemplation helps you decide.
Absolutely. And I think, quite often it's easy for us to point the finger at other people and say it's them, and not take responsibility for what part did I play in that, even if it's accepting unacceptable behavior.
Yeah. So this helps you see all the things very clearly. One, it helps you see yourself clearly. So it's almost, this is guided introspection. That's what it is. But then it also gives you clarity that, okay, if this person is unpleasant to the extent that I cannot change and I've done my best, then maybe I need to take an extreme measure. So the choice always has to be yours, which is where, you started with the right statement. Once you train your inner counselor, you may never need an external one. That's the objective of the contemplation program. You train your inner counselor in a manner where you know what is right for you. That may not be right for somebody else. That may not look right to somebody else. The question is it right for you? Because only you will live your life. No one else will.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to share around the principles of contemplation before we talk about how best people can make contact and connect with you?
I can mention a couple of other principles you'd like. So Another principle is feeling good versus feeling right. Where you ask yourself, I did this, I said this. Does it feel good? Okay, yes, it feels good. But does it also feel peaceful? For example, it might feel good to cheat on your partner just tonight. The question is, does it also feel peaceful? Now, the same principle is also applicable in the other direction. I did this, I said this. Does it feel right? Does it feel good? No, it does not feel good. But does it feel peaceful? If it feels peaceful, in some cases, even if it does not feel good at the moment, you might still want to do it. Now, a couple of examples there. One, very obvious about our health, things that we eat, etc., etc. That's the usual one. But think about it from a company perspective. Having an unpleasant employee leave because they are spoiling the culture may not feel good in the moment every time. But if you know that it is good in the overall scheme of things for everybody else, for the vision of the company, for what we stand for, then maybe letting them go is the right thing to do. So that's one of the principles. And as I mentioned, the other principle where we do a lot of work in the program is speech. Because speech is so important simply because of the amount of it that is involved in your life. How much you speak is so much that it merits attention. So we look at negative speech and then you examine, do you have negative speech and does it make you peaceful? Does it make you restless? But we also work on quantity of speech, speaking less overall, because that tends to make you more peaceful. And also reducing the velocity of speech. Speaking slower usually keeps you more peaceful. Speaking fast tends to make you more restless. Similarly with the pitch and the volume. So we do some work, a lot of work around speech, and especially there are so many members that are currently working on reducing their quantity and speed of speech, and they see practical changes when they actually start speaking slower. One, they feel more peaceful, that's for them, but I've had people who have said, I think I'm taken more seriously in meetings now because of the way I speak. Earlier, I just used to rattle off whatever came to my head.
I think it might be a bit harder for women because I think it's been proven via stats and research that we speak probably 7 times more than men.
I see. Yeah, so those are some of the principles.
Excellent. I find it really fascinating, Tarun. So, for the audience members that are really interested in finding out more about what you do, what's your best contact information?
So you could go to the website, which is adiosworld.com, ADIOSWORLD.com. And you basically start with taking an assessment. We have created a metric called the OQ. OQ stands for oneness quotient. Just like you have IQ, we have OQ. And your OQ tells you, it's a measure of how one you are with yourself, how deeply connected you are with yourself, and what percentage of the time you make decisions that make you more peaceful versus less peaceful. So you start your journey by taking the OQ assessment. You answer a few personal questions relating to work, and then you take the program.
Excellent. I'm really curious to have a go at doing that test myself.
Sure. Let me know what the score is.
Yeah, I'd love to give it a go, and definitely plan to do that after we've ended this particular episode. So any final words of wisdom you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up the episode today, Tarun?
All I would say is clarity of thought and peace of mind are skills. And contemplation is really easy. We now have a way to do it. All it takes is sitting down with yourself. 10 to 15 minutes a day. Go and have a cup of coffee with yourself. And ask yourself this basic question. Even if you don't take the program, just this question. Does this make me more peaceful? Does this make me less peaceful? Just that one question can sometimes clear the fog like you wouldn't even imagine. Try it. Try it today.
I'm going to put that into practice myself, definitely. Thank you so much, Tarun. It's been really fascinating talking to you today, and I really appreciate you sharing all your wise words and your principles around this topic of contemplation today with us.
Thank you for having me, Lyn. Thank you so much. It was an honor.
So, listeners, it just leaves me to say that true love starts with opening our hearts. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.